Live from Huntertown, Indiana, it's Soarin on the air. So here we are today, and as usual, we have a different kind of topic. So, ooh, dang, oh, Bob. What, Bob? Okay, well, how about that? That's not working, is it? Stop. Okay.
Stupid technology.
Stupid technology. You know, what a bird brain, I guess, you know. Isn't that thing doing? So that's me, the bird brain. So anyway, so today's topic is going to be, you guessed it, bird brain. Okay, and you know, so bird brain is a term that's not a very nice term. You know, so we use a lot of derogatory terms to talk about people. Some bad terms, you know, over the years we have. Oh, that idea is for the birds, you know. Or that guy there, he's a lame duck. He's not going to last very long. Or that comedian, he really laid an egg on that one. Or, well, like me, henpecked. Okay.
Oh.
Oh no, actually, I'm really taking good care. You know? Or somebody fouls up and he has to apologize, so he's eating crow. And of course, sometimes people are called bird brains because they're supposedly simple, but the term bird brain didn't actually come into our vocabulary until the 1920s. So it was a long time before people started calling people who were half-witted like me bird brains. So, okay, so actually birds are really quite smart, and birds have the same needs as people do, okay, or humans do. So they have things like self-awareness, okay? They have to get food. They have to find shelter. They have to avoid harm, in other words, how to stay away from predators or traffic or people or things like that. They have to move about. They also have to be able to socialize. They have to get along with members of their same family, if you will, or their same flock. And finally, they have to reproduce. So in many ways, birds have the exact same needs. Okay, you guys back there, quit flicking around. Got an audience here. Okay, so in many ways, birds are quite similar to people. Like, it's okay. You can stay.
I'm getting food.
Okay, so where's he going? He's going to get something to eat, huh? Okay, talking to Chewy back there. So anyways, so up until very recently, anybody that observed birds, and said that the birds seemed to exhibit human qualities, they were said that they were non-scientific and that they were trying to, if I can say this, anthropomorphize, okay, the birds. In other words, trying to give them human qualities. So anthropomorphism is the attribution of human behavior to animal behavior. Okay, so in other words, some of the things that people do or animals do, people say, well, that's just kind of like my brother did or my wife did or something, or some other person. Up to really recently, it was considered heresy to imbue birds or animals with any kind of human type qualities. So it's always frowned upon. But there's been a lot of anecdotal information over the years, but it's been ignored. It was just people's imagination. You just imagine it. But recently, in the light of field and laboratory observations, research, thoughts have changed. So now people are getting a better idea that, yes, maybe there are some things that are different because, well, the birds take a different form than we do, So physically, they look different, they act different, or that kind of thing. But psychologically, maybe the birds and us have a lot in common. And so we're going to explore some of those things, okay? And so the first thing we're going to talk with is recognition, the ability to recognize members of their own flock or species. So here are a couple of albatrosses out there in Laysan Island out there in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, greeting each other after a long winter. They've been at sea, they're coming back in, and they go and they greet each other. They recognize each other. In fact, animal recognition is very interesting. Even though people here that work here at Soarin Hawk, they know that these birds recognize their caretakers. And they like some caretakers better than they like other caretakers, you know. In fact, they remember the people that go and take them in to have their beaks coat, or to have their toenails trimmed and things like that, or that take them to the veterinarian for examination. So we have certain people that just do those jobs. They don't do the day-to-day handling, because those birds can remember that. And birds in your backyard, they will remember, you know, if you go out there and you do something bad to them, or they'll remember you if you do something good for them. So they have a memory. And in fact, in some experiments that they did, they had birds that could recognize pictures of people, okay, that did things. And so every so often you see something on YouTube or something like that, mockingbird attacking somebody. Well, that's probably because that person has done something to that bird, either cut down this bush or tree or thrown something at it, you know. Whereas other people, they'll walk right up, the bird will get in their hand, you know. So, in fact, there's been a couple studies where researchers had worked at a location out of the country, and they had hand-fed birds. They go back maybe 10 years later on reassignment, and that bird remembers that person and comes right up to them. So they have a great memory, but they do recognize people. They do recognize members of their own flock. They recognize their kids, you know, which is much better than a lot of our humans do, you know. So they know who their own kids are. They know who the members of their flock are. They know who aren't members of their flock, even though it's the same species. So there's a lot that goes on there. So self-awareness, they're aware of their bodies. They're basically sentient, okay? They're aware of themselves, and they recognize others. So some other features. You guys are familiar with this bird, okay? We have one of these that causes a lot of trouble, but that's not Charlie, okay? That's a bird named Betty, and she's an African gray parrot. And in the 1980s, they were doing some research, and guess what they discovered? Betty there could actually tell colors apart. She could identify things with different colors. She could count. You know, she had limited counting ability, but she could count the number of items. Even if there was a mixture of items, you could count the number of items, that kind of thing. And she could say words. In fact, she even could basically read words. You know, of course, they're like one syllable or two syllable words, but she could actually read the words and sound them out. At that point, the psychologists, they kind of like, maybe there's something more going on in that head there than you thought. Now, Charlie, our bird that we have that hangs around with our raptors occasionally, it is a very fast learner. He's probably learned every four-letter word in the dictionary, and maybe a few that aren't in the dictionary. But he's learned how to say these things, you know. So he quickly picks up. And this is not uncommon just to Charlie, but for a whole bunch of these birds. And this is the only bird that does that. It's just that the African gray parrots are very good at saying words and things like that. So you get more out of them. And so you have more idea of what they're talking about. And so doing a lot of different experiments, how smart are the birds? This is a this is a pigeon, just the common ordinary rock dove, if you will. And what they found was that these rock doves can be trained to actually examine mammograms. And they can actually find as many anomalies. You see the bird brain thing? It's coming before. Anyways, anomalies in the mammogram as a radiologist can. On a par, they're about the bird's about 95% accurate. So it's amazing. So here's the bird. They can sit there, look at that mammogram, and pick out all the different anomalies. So I don't know how many of you guys have gone down to your gynecologist and seen the pigeons in there, but that's why they're there. You know, put the radiologist out of work. So now, some of the birds, and these are called bower birds, but there are other birds that do similar things, actually have some aesthetics. Okay, they actually know how to choose colors, how to make arrangements, And in this case, the bowerbirds make these beautiful, wonderful arrangements of color to attract a female. And this is a Vogelkop bowerbird. They're found in western New Guinea on the part of the island called the Vogelkop, which is basically bird head, because if you look at the New Guinea, it looks like a bird head at the end of the island. But anyways, so he gets all these different colored berries, litter that he can find, whatever, and he builds this beautiful bower to attract the female. Of course, the whole thing is just to get her in there, and it's a very quick session. It's kind of wham bam, and then everything is over until the next female. But so he attracts satin bowerbird, goes out there, and if you look here, it's all these blue plastic straws that people have littered. Okay, also blue bottle caps from water bottles, things like that. Gathers them all up. If you go out there and you disturb any of this, he'll immediately come in and clean it up and fix it back up. So as a little experiment, one day we were out watching the bowerbirds, and so we threw a couple leaves in. Immediately, the bowerbird was back, picked up those leaves, kicked them out, cleaned everything back up, and then went back to waiting for his true love to show up. So the birds have some kinds of aesthetics, and there are other birds that do similar things, like if you go red-cockaded woodpeckers down in Florida and other places, they go and they decorate around their nest hole with pieces of pine sap. And of course, that has two purposes. One is it says, hey, this is an active nest here. The other thing is it keeps snakes from crawling across that pine sap and getting into your nest, you know. I have a crested flycatcher lives in my backyard, and he decorates his nest with a snake skin. So again, and that's to keep other birds away, but it also makes a nice decoration. Looks really kind of sharp having that snake skin hanging out there. Now, one of the big things that birds do, a lot of the birds do, and that is migrate. This is an Arctic tern. Typically, they nest in North America, at least on the East Coast side, from about Nova Scotia on up through Greenland. And these guys will migrate all the way around the Atlantic Ocean. So they take off from Greenland, go over towards Europe, down the coast of Europe, down through Africa, around Africa, down to Antarctica, then back across and up South America. So they cover about 40,000 kilometers, okay, every year. They do this and they go and migrate. So how do you migrate? How do you know where to go? You know, so this information is all stored up in the head, you know, because they're going to be on unfamiliar grounds. You know, they take off as young birds, as juveniles, and they start that pattern. And what they do is they're actually watching the sun. They're always in sunshine. So from the time that they take off to the time they get all the way down to Antarctica, all the way back up, they're following the sun. And so as the sun, the sun actually, as the Earth turns, you know, and precesses on its axis, the bird makes adjustments. So they fly all the way down, all the way back. And it's a precarious thing to do, you know, this migration thing. But they have it all memorized, or somehow it's stored in there, and they know that they follow the track of the sun. And the amazing thing I found out was that these guys live anywhere from 30 to 35 years. So they're really tough birds, you know. So that it's kind of an amazing feat, you know. But we have other birds, you know, our little warblers. They take off. In fact, they're passing through now. In fact, a lot of them are kind of stuck right now down there in Alabama and Georgia because of the hurricane. But a lot of those guys have flown down there, and they're not flying during the daytime, because during the daytime it's dangerous to fly out there because there's hawks and other things that are migrating, and so they don't want to be picked off. So they fly at night, and so to fly at night they use celestial navigation. So they actually track the stars, and so they watch the stars or the moon, whichever it happens to be, but they watch the stars. They rely quite a bit on the pole star and the constellations that surround it. So they can follow their celestial navigation, and they head off. Occasionally you get some guys that are a little messed up, and for some reason their brain isn't quite wired right, and they will end up going at 90-degree angles to what they should normally be following. So, you know, but that's how Mother Nature keeps the population under control. So anyway, so we have these birds that have magnificent brains that can do all this calculation. How hard would it be for us to migrate? Well, you've seen some humans. They go. They step out the front door of Kroger's there, and they can't find their car. So a little bit of problem with the navigation problem, or even getting home from Kroger's. But other people that have no problem. You just say, well, I want you to go with so and so, and they just hop in the car and off they go, and they get there in a matter of minutes. Anyway,
I'm going to interrupt for 1 second.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure everybody can hear us. Somebody just said that they can't hear us. Want to make sure if somebody can let me know. Let us know if you can hear us. I know we have a couple of watchers there, and I'm hoping that they can hear.
Okay, you can hear? Okay. I don't want to start over at the beginning. So, now, this is a western scrub jay, and this is one of the members of the corvid family. Not COVID, corvid, okay? So, crows, jays, the ravens, okay, those guys. These guys are known for burrowing as much as, or caching, I should say, as much as 30,000 items a year. They go out there to get all those pine seeds and other seeds and things like that, and they'll cache them away. And the amazing thing is that they'll recover about 80% of them in the winter. In fact, they can even find them under 2 feet of snow. So it isn't like they're depending upon some like dug up ground or something like that, or something that's exposed. They're actually remembering, looking at the things, the trees, the rocks, whatever's around them, the landscape, to actually find where they have to go back to. And the other clever thing is, these guys know that if there's somebody watching them, they will temporarily hide whatever it is, and then come back a short time later, pick it up, and then re-hide it, okay? So the other thing that's also kind of interesting is they eat the best food first. The most delectable, the most reasonable, and they leave the worst stuff to the end. So fresh food goes first, and then the old stuff that waits to the end. So it's like in my yard. We have some bird feeders out and stuff like that, but we have a number of birds that come in and they feed on berries. So I have things like honeysuckle and some of those that are available, but those disappear pretty well into the fall, and so now they're dependent upon seeds and things. But later on, they start going after the seeds, seed pods or seeds from like cedar trees, which are a little bit sour, or even things like the rose hips on the there we go, the rose bushes. Okay, and so it's, I think that I've lost my bird brain. This is terrible. So anyways, so they leave the worst tasting food to the end when they really are starting to get desperate. So the multiflora rose we have in our yard, it produces rose hips, and the birds get those usually January, February, when they're really starting to get desperate for food. But they know where they're located, so they can come back to them. So it's interesting to know that these guys can hide a lot of food. Me, I can't even find my keys some days. I know a lot of people like that. Where do I leave the keys? Where do I leave my glasses?
Your phone.
But here you got a bird that can remember where he left all his seeds. So 30,000 seeds he's hidden away for the winter, and then he can go back and he can retrieve them. Well, the other thing that birds do is that they're very adaptive, and they learn how to solve puzzles, and they also learn how to make tools. And see, tools are supposed to be one of those things that makes us humans human, because a lot of animals don't make tools, but as they're finding out, things like chimpanzees and monkeys and stuff like that also make tools. So one of the things I have right here, this New Caledonian crow, and again, a member of the corvid family. I gotta quit saying that. Corvid family, okay. Yeah, has nothing to do with viruses, okay. And they learned that these guys make tools by themselves. Typically, they'll take a branch or a twig or something like that, and then form it so that they can do things like extract grubs out of a tree or something like that. But but they also found that experimenting in the laboratory, that they could take and they could bend up a piece of wire or something like that. So a bird would work using that hook to, say, extract an item out of a jar, so it could reach down in there. further experiment showed that if you just laid a piece of wire there, the bird would take it and bend it to the right size and shape so he could go in there and pick
Wow.
it out. There's other birds that also make tools. There's like the Darwin's finches, the cactus finch will use the thorns from cacti to actually probe out the worms and things like that. But there's other adaptations that aren't exactly making tools, but using physics to help them out. I think earlier on we talked about the lammergauer, okay, or the bone breaker vulture, okay, and that bird finds bones and then goes up high in the air, a couple 100 feet, and then drops the bones on rocks to break them open so it gets into the marrow, okay. So this is a guy that has figured out how to extract food if he needs it. Well, if any of you have gone down to the seashore, sometimes you'll find gulls that are picking up clams or oysters or something like that, going out to the highway and dropping them on the highway or on the rock jetties to break the clams open, you know. Of course, so that's one of the things. But one of the neatest things I read about was in Japan, there's a small town in northern Japan where the crows get walnuts. And what they've learned is they go up and they sit on top of a traffic light. When the light turns red, they fly down, put the walnuts down on the ground in front of the cars, and then as soon as the light turns green, they go back up. They wait for the traffic to pass. When the light turns red, they fly down and get the nuts out.
No way.
So there's a lot of things out there. So they're really clever at figuring out things. And there's probably many, many more examples of these things. And the thing is, like the crow here, it teaches the young ones, the juveniles, how to do these things. So they pass it on. One of the neatest stories, and this is something that when I was stationed in England, we used to go to the chow hall, and for a snack we would bring bottles of milk back with us. You know, just put it on the window outside the barracks there. And at that time they didn't homogenize the milk, so the cream would always rise to the top. Well, one day I was sitting there in my room, and here along comes a coal tit. It flew up, landed on top of the bottle, and popped the lid on the bottle, okay, and ate the I thought, man, that's a really smart bird. Well, what I found out was that in about 1920 or thereabouts, in a small town up in northern England, they would get milk that way, and one of the tits learned how to pop the top so it could get the cream out. So they said within a year, every tit in the town knew how to do that.
Wow.
Within 5 years, all the tits in the county knew how to do that. And then it wasn't too long, within 10 years, every tit in England knew how to do that. So really clever. They transmit that information. So pretty smart, you know. Of course, now they homogenize the milk, which, and of course, it's in plastic or cardboard containers now. So the poor little things can't get the milk out. But I thought that was one of the most entertaining things I ever saw. You know, again, anecdotal information about birds was passed on to the scientists, and the scientists basically said, no, it can't be true because we know that those birds are nothing but a mass of just skin cells and organs, and they just perform according to instinct, and so it's just nothing but little activated automatons, okay? So they just sit there, they just do whatever instinct tells them. Well, actually they do more than just what instinct tells them. And this is a little place down in Peru, and this is called a clay lick. And these are all macaws. There's also parrots and stuff like that. These are red and green macaws. And this is a place where the birds come in to get this clay, and they swallow it, and there's minerals in the clay that helps to detoxify the food that they're getting. A lot of the nuts and stuff like that can be poisonous, but by using this clay, they can actually detoxify the thing. But the important thing isn't the fact that they go here for a clay lick. This is a socialization thing. So mom and dad bring the kids, okay? And it's kind of like a church social, you might say. They introduce the kids to the flock, and the flock to the kids. And this is the beginning of the kids, or the juveniles, learning to establish a relationship of a potential mate in the future. So, you know, mom, dad, the kids, they go to church, you know, meet everybody, then they go home, okay? So it's kind of interesting. So it's a big socialization thing, not just for the macaws, but a lot of the parrots and other relatives do come to these places. They do meet each other, they do socialize, they talk, and that kind of thing. And so it's kind of like, this is pretty smart, you know? We humans used to do a lot of that. Now we all sit there in front of the boob tube, or else sit there on the cell phone and do some other things. But, you know, but the birds, I think, really have it worked out. So one of the things they said that if you want to measure intelligences, can birds or any animal do math? Okay, can they count? That, you know, that kind of thing. So in China and parts of Japan and some of the other Asian countries, fishermen use cormorants to catch fish for them. They take a cormorant, they put a band around its neck, and they put the bird out in the water, and it catches fish. But it can't swallow the fish because of the band around the neck, the ring around the neck. So what they do is they pick up the cormorant out of the water, extract the fish, and then put it back in. But the bird, to encourage it, this is kind of part of PRT. Yeah, PRT. So positive reinforcement training. What they do is every 8th fish they're allowed to eat. So they take the band off, allow the bird to eat it. Now if a bird comes up with his 8th fish and the fisherman doesn't do anything, you know, or if the fisherman takes the fish, the bird refuses to go back in the water. Wow. So he knows that on the 8th fish, he gets fed, you know, so they count it. So they've been observed that when they try doing this, the bird just sits there on the boat, won't move. He says, that's it, I'm not doing anything if you don't give me the 8th fish. So when the fisherman takes that 8th fish out but doesn't release the ring, the bird doesn't move. He's sitting there and he's waiting for it. So they do count, you know. And back to that gray hair, or the African gray parrot, he learned to count, and he could do some simple math. And if you don't, and I know there's a lot of hunters and stuff like that that go out there, you know, they go to a hide, you know, so they can shoot at stuff. And the birds count them going in. And I know some of the hunters think, well, you know, 1 or 2 of us will walk out and they'll think there's nobody in the hide. No, it doesn't work that way. The birds know that there's people still inside the hide. They count them in and out. So it's, you know, so they're pretty clever, kind of really smart. So anyways, these are some of the things that birds do, just like we do, yeah. And so I guess it's same thing. Like you know, I guess if we were to do some kind of, well, like we go to work and we don't get paid. Well, if you don't get paid, we refuse to work. You know, same way, you know, and we count. We get that paycheck. We look at that paycheck and we say, well, we got this much. Okay, so we got 5 carp, 2 sunnies, and a bluegill. Okay, I'm good. You know. Another way that birds socialize and communicate is in large groups. This is a large group of crows. And crows, if you've ever watched them, usually go out and they have small feeding parties. Maybe 3 to 5 birds form a little feeding party. They feed at a place like your backyard or the neighborhood or something like that. And then at the end of the day, they go back and they get to an area where they start congregating. Okay, you get this thing, murder of crows, they call them. But anyways, you get all these birds start to communicate. And they sit there and they talk to each other. They give information about, well, how are the kids, you know, how was the drive, that kind of thing. How was the food? Well, one of the things that they found was that if birds are having a particularly difficult time, you know, finding food at their normal location for some reason, like somebody's brought a bunch of bulldozers out and have plowed down their place, you know, they'll complain about it, and other birds will go and they'll say, hey, look, join us for a couple days, you know. And so they'll bring another party with them, another family, a little group. So they'll actually tell them, here's where we're going, and this is what we can do. You can feed with us for a couple days. And so they, you know, so they have feelings for each other. Okay, so they're going to help each other out, you know. And I think humans would probably do the same thing for the most part, you know. Give people a helping hand, or give your crows a helping hand, you know. So anyway, so there's more going on here than just a bunch of noisy crows sitting up in the trees cawing and all that kind of thing. They're talking about whatever has happened in their family, but also where they have found food or how to get to the food or that kind of thing. So, let's see. Oh, we got a lot of stuff. We got a lot of stuff. So, of course, one of the things we know about birds is, of course, that they have nests and that they lay eggs and that they raise young. Well, one of the things is birds are very attentive to their nests and to their young. They, in fact, they're so attentive. A lot of times, mom will be sitting there on the nest, incubating the eggs, and dad will start bringing food up for the babies maybe days in advance. So he's anticipating that there's something going to happen in the future. So he starts bringing up food for the kids, and of course, mom has to eat it, because you can't let it go to waste. But the thing is that they start anticipating bringing up the food. They keep count. They keep a head count of how many birds that they have, So if one gets extracted from the nest, they go looking for it. They're going to find it. They're going to take good care of it. And in many cases, they take care of the birds from the time that the eggs, of course, are laid, but also all the way through the time that they fledge out and they're actually flying around. So in many cases, they'll actually keep close eye on it. Particularly like our raptors. A lot of us are familiar with the raptors, how the hawks will lead the babies around, teach them how to go hunt, that kind of thing. Also, we'll work with them until almost into winter time, to get them used to where to go, where to hide, that kind of thing. So they give a lot of attention to the offspring and take good care of them, which is probably better than a lot of humans do. So, oh yeah, this little guy here. This is a bird that we do not find in the United States. If you do, it's going to be very uncommon, but this is a marsh warbler. And this little guy migrates every year from, say, England or France or those places, all the way down into Africa, almost all the way down, not quite to South Africa, but along the coast and the way down. And this guy, to fit in, actually learns the songs of the African birds. So he has a repertoire of over 1,000 songs that he can sing. So he goes down there, he starts losing his European voice, if you will, and he starts adapting to the African sounds. So he starts imitating them so he fits in, and he's listening to their songs and he's memorizing them. He's not exactly a mimic, but he is a recorder, if you will. And so he'll repeat those. And then when he goes back north up to France and England like that, he gets a lot of bird watchers excited because they're standing there and they're hearing African birds calling. And so, so for a few years, it was very disconcerting. People were swearing that they were hearing birds from Africa. And in reality, it was this guy here repeating all those songs he learned, but now he was trying to get back into learning his own songs again and repeating those. So he can memorize up to 1,000 different songs. So it's very unique. So it's a really interesting bird breeding out there. Oh yeah. Okay. And this is a veery, which is a kind of thrush that we have here in the United States. They basically, they're a New England bird, but you will find them here kind of in northern Indiana, up into Michigan, those places. And it's got some really, really beautiful songs. But one of the things they found out is he does a little thing, freestyle thing. You hear the song, but if you slow down the song and you listen, the beat changes, it evolves. It's kind of like a jazz orchestra, So as it goes along, it's got the same similar sound, but in behind are beats that are going on and different phases and things like that. But it's still all, to us, it all sounds the same, but when you slow it way down and listen. So he can vary that song, so he has a little bit of stuff that goes on in there, And so a little impromptu type stuff. And here's one of my favorites. This is a palm cockatoo, and he's got rhythm, okay? So they're found in Queensland, well, actually Cape York. This is up Cape York, the very northeast tip of Australia. And what this guy does is he gets a stick, and I couldn't find my picture, I have him, but anyways, gets a stick and actually puts it in his talons, and he actually beats a rhythm out on the branches of the trees. So you go down through there, up in Cape, there aren't too many roads. It's just dirt trails and stuff. You go down there, and all of a sudden you hear, so he's pounding away, and he's sitting there swinging. In fact, I met a group of not bird watchers, but caged bird enthusiasts from Indiana, and they came just to see the palm cockatoo up there. Mm-hmm. So, but here he was out there, beating out a rhythm, which made him happy. So anyway, so they have rhythm, okay? So they have freestyle singing. They have mimicking that they can, phrases of other birds. So there's all kinds of things going on in that little bitty bird brain. And here's a pair of black-capped Donacobiuses, and these birds are very similar to our barred owls, because what they do is they sing duets. So sometimes they go, one will start, and then the other one will join, or sometimes they sing together, and sometimes one's syncopated to the other one, And so they're out there. These guys are like about the size of a catbird. They're not exactly mimics like mockingbirds or that, but they're in between a wren and a mimic. So, but here they are. They're found down in the Pantanal of Brazil and that area, and so they're out there in the marshland. But here they are. They sing these great, delightful songs. So again, really something else that these birds do, and they, like I said, they get together and they duet. So I'm going to sort of, I don't know if I'm running out of time or not, but some people are falling asleep in the back. Yeah. So what are some of the indicators of intelligence when we look at it? It's the ability to recognize individuals, okay? Self-awareness, ability to take care of individuals. The elaborate care of young ones, If you watch most mammals just kind of pop out a kid, lick it off a little bit, and then, maybe goose it along a bit, and maybe protect it, but not real elaborate care as much as what the birds do. Indication of emotions. I think sometimes some of us see the birds out here actually kind of emote. I think one of the ones that really got to me, I was going over to Grable, not too far from here. Traffic through there isn't too fast, and as I was approaching Grable, car coming the other way hit a pair of goldfinches. Well, one goldfinch didn't make it, the other one did, But I slowed down because I was going to get the goldfinch off the road, and the female came over and was tugging at her mate. Come on, wouldn't, leave him there. I've seen the same thing we used to raise quail. If a hatchling wasn't making it, the other would peck at it, come on, get up, So they do try to help each other. So there is some emotion there, Maybe I'm getting too anthropomorphic, okay? They're able to count, they can do basic math, okay? They recognize their surroundings, That's how they get around where they live, They're not the only ones that do that. I found out that my bats at night do the same thing. They recognize their surroundings as well as use other things. They gather and store food. We know that our hawks and owls sometimes cache food out here, so they'll, so we have to go out there and find out where they've hidden their food, But they say, well, leftovers for tonight or something, But we've learned that a lot of birds can go out there. So you have some interesting things like the jays hiding seeds. You have things like the shrikes hanging their prey on a thorn on a bush. So there's a lot of stuff out there that do this. They relay information to the young. Okay, so they teach the kids about how to take care of things, take care of themselves, how to find good food versus bad food, that kind of thing, and they can make tools. So those are some really good indications of intelligence, And actually, I think after looking at that list, I think about half the humans I know can only do half those things. But I'm sorry, take that back. Okay, but anyway, so you can see here's what birds can do, and here's what humans can do. So they're pretty close to us. So how do they do that? Well, what about their brain? Okay, they have a larger brain relative to body size. Basically, when you come right down to it, humans, compared to their body size, have a very large brain. birds, compared to their body size, have a very large brain. So that's first off, they got a larger brain per size than most other mammals do. You know, they have a small head. You know, and that's one of the things people say. Well, it's got a small head, so it's got a small brain, so it doesn't get, you know. But the thing is, the small head is designed to accommodate flight, so that they can fly better and that kind of thing. But the thing is that in the bird brain, you have more neurons, okay, and they're much smaller, and they're much more densely packed than those in mammals. So they have about 4 times, okay, if you can imagine 2 to 4 times as many neurons per cubic centimeter as say a chimpanzee. Okay, so they have more neurons, they're packed tighter, and also the way that the neurons are fixed, they're strung together in shorter lengths, so that information can get transmitted quicker back and forth, or firing of the neurons can go back and forth much quicker. Whereas with us and some of the other animals, it's a longer distance between neurons. You know, I think my neurons are out to lunch. So anyway, so there are some reasons why birds have better brains, you know, than what we anticipated. And so when you're looking at birds and you think that's a very human-like thing that they're doing, you can be quite correct. So yes, I am proud to be a bird brain. Okay, and you should be too. So anybody got any questions?
No.
No.
No questions.
No.
No.
Oh, come on. You got to have a few questions. So anyways, we brought a couple bird brains here. And I'm talking about the birds. Okay, so who would like to come up here and talk about their birds? We got Chewy and we have Captain Coop. Oops. Sorry. Okay. So I guess this Saturday, well, now you've been such a perfect bird all the way along through this whole thing, and finally woke up. So this Saturday, here in Huntertown, they're having a, what would you call it?
The Great Huntertown Scavenger Hunt.
The Great Huntertown Scavenger Hunt. Somewhere out there is something that's been hidden away, and it's what? What are they hidden away?
Oh, every vendor will have some token they have to pick up. So for us, it will be a picture of yourself with a bird.
Oh, okay.
And at the end of, actually it's a 2-day event, they are going to raffle off a big screen TV,
Woo.
among other things.
Ooh,
So
yep, we could use that. I don't know why I put it, but it worked.
You get a TV out of it.
Yeah. So be a real bird brain and find the
Yep.
find
The
the reward.
map's available at Well Grounded, the coffee shop as you enter Huntertown.
On the
So-
south end.
On the south end, so stop there, pick up your map, and then come and see us at the family park. We'll have
Are we
sale
going to be out at the pavilion?
at the pavilions there. We'll be there. The birds will be there. We have sale items, lots of sale items. Things we have quite a variety.
Oh, got a lot of. I saw a lot of shirts, a lot of books. I saw
Lot of
some
books.
paintings. I
We
think I
have
saw.
some prints and paintings. We have
Yeah.
some statuettes. We have jewelry. We have other crafts. We have glassware. We have bird boxes. It's still coming in. So on Saturday we are filling that
Yeah.
place up with
Yeah.
all kinds of items.
Okay.
And Jeff's is going to
And
be
Jeff
there?
will be, yes, the Eagle will be there between 10 and 11. Chewy here will be there a little afternoon, and the Coop will be there for his naming ceremony.
Yeah, 2 to 3, as I understand it, right?
He'll be out throughout the day,
Okay.
depending
Oh,
on
good.
how he reacts to the crowds, because this will be his first presentation, so we'll do it based on how he is in front of people.
And you get to help choose the name, right? The people that come out, we'll have some. We have 3 jars there, and you can put your vote in. Okay. No mail-in votes. I'm sorry. We're going to do this right there. You have to come right up there and put the vote right in the jar with your donation.
Yep.
Okay. With
$1 a vote, we take
$1 a vote.
cash, check, and charge, so
Yeah.
come on down with your wallet.
So if you really want to, you can put in 50 votes, 100 votes. And what are the 3 names that have been chosen?
Well, one is Maverick and Jet, and of course Captain Coop.
Captain Coop. I like Captain Coop. Okay.
So yeah, everybody can come out and vote for this bird's name. And this way, by next week at this time, we'll have a name for him.
Well,
her.
we should have a name at the end of the day when we,
Right.
over there at the park, yeah.
But people can find out on Facebook next week.
Okay.
That's one of the things we could talk about next week.
Next week, okay. You'll have a name, okay. We have to have him baptized? No. He does like showers. So,
He does.
He does like showers.
He likes enrichment,
He likes enrichment.
loves that, so
Yeah.
he's quite active with his enrichment, which is fun.
He's, torn apart 3 paper bags today?
Yeah, I put in a balled up newspaper, and within 30 seconds he was on it. And then there was couple other little things. He had to play with each one. But he loves his enrichment. Same with Chewy, who loves enrichment.
Okay. And Sue here is going to be there. She's in charge of the rummage sale, if
Of
you
the
will.
garage sale, rummage sale, a sale of items that, like I said, we've got everything from jewelry, DVDs, books.
Yeah.
We have some kerosene heaters if everybody's want to get ready for the cold winter months coming up. Some dishes. It's quite a variety, and every time I walk in, I'm surprised at how much more we have.
Also, some original artwork, too.
We have some original artwork.
Wait.
Yes, we do.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
coming in. Framed, unframed, it depends, your pick. Trying to think of the best things, some of the good things that came up. The bird boxes were a surprise today, the owl boxes.
Yep.
So we'll have those. You don't have to build them yourself. They're to spec, and they've got the holes ready to just nail on up and welcome them, their new visitors. Or
I
their
think
new
we
home.
built those boxes, what was it, the 5th event, the Facebook event?
Right, one of them.
We're in here building those, yeah.
And they're at garage sale prices, and we may even have a super sale, depending upon what's going on after 2 o'clock.
Everything must go.
Everything must go, so combine it with coming and seeing our little guy here get named,
Yeah.
and pick up some good deals.
So
we're gonna
again,
have a-
what time is it again? Just
It'll
so
be from 9 to 3.
9 to 3.
The birds will start appearing somewhere around 10, so Jeff will make his entrance around then. Like I said, your token for the scavenger hunt is to get a picture of yourself with a bird.
Okay. And so, but we'll have other birds here, just those
Yes.
3 we're gonna have.
Oh, we'll be
so-
cycling through all day
so-
long.
So we'll have all different ones, so you can just sit there with us and see all the birds come through, so you'll
Yeah.
probably get about 15 different birds come through the place.
It's a large park, bring your lawn chair, it's supposed to be a beautiful day, and just relax and watch the birds.
Yeah, but of course then they won't get the television, so it's,
So that's true.
What's more important?
yeah, it's more important to watch the birds, and be a bird brain,
Very relaxing, you can,
Yeah.
as we can attest that sitting with a bird,
Yes.
watching a bird is very
Oh, yeah,
relaxing.
Right, yeah, it's good for you. Okay, Coop, yeah. Okay, Chewy, yeah. Okay. Thank you, Nicole and Sue, and I guess I got it. And thank you, Gigi, my
Yep.
my cameraman, or camera
Yep.
person, sorry. Okay.
We're okay.
We're okay. So anyways, we'll be back next week. We don't know what the topic will be, but if you have some good questions, that's what leads me on. People ask a question, and that kind of triggers what the next segment is. Like a couple weeks ago, we did the thing about tasting because somebody asked about chili peppers and birds. So we don't. So I got tasting. The whole thing about. Birds seem to act human sometimes. Okay, I started this. So if you have a topic that you would like to talk about, and you don't mind me being too long-winded, I'm sorry we took a little bit more time than normal. Not much more, but we're 20 minutes over. But that's okay. So we'll see you next week, and have a good weekend. Come on out, support us. And if you can't make it, you can always go to our website, go to the donate button, and push that button, and go ahead and or if you can think of something that we might have, ask us. We'll rummage around. We'll see if we have it there somewhere, and we'll give you a bargain price on it. So, okay. So, anyways, I'll see you later, and we'll see you guys today. Okay. We'll go back out there and watch these guys.
Okay, thanks everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.